using your own experiences, your own education and nutrition and diet, as a dietitian, what what how about what is the perfect diet? And maybe for cancer, or is for just being healthy? Is it don't tell me vegan. Uh,
No, okay, so here's what I always say. There are many right ways to eat healthy, and everybody's a little different. So what might work for you is maybe a little different than what might work for me, but there are some definite universal patterns in really healthy individuals. And what continues to bubble to the surface of all the literature in the world is whole foods first. Like again, we're eating how nature intended us to eat. Lots of vegetables, lean proteins, right? Whether you're an omnivore and you can choose to include animal meat or beans, nuts and seeds, things like that. I don't have really anything I exclude from my diet. I eat a huge variety of whole foods, lots of seafood, lean proteins, all of that stuff. But if we're going to get nitty gritty cancer specific, the nerd in me went into PubMed and I started reading as many articles as I could on cancer specific nutrition. So if you like, I keep a little list in my email. I always have this like taped to my refrigerator. And these vegetables in particular are actually known to be anti tumor, meaning that if you put them in your body regularly, they have certain chemicals that these plants produce, mostly from the cruciferous vegetable family, that cancer starts to die in the presence of these plant compounds. So, if you want that little list for any listeners, it would be foods like our Brussels sprouts, things like cabbage, anything that's from the garlic and the onion. So those really white, intense kind of vegetables, green kale, leeks, the dark green spinach family, dark green asparagus, also pops of bright red, blue, and purple. So things like beets and purple cabbage, broccoli is a really good cruciferous vegetable. Even more common ones like green beans are also known to be anti-tumor. Or if you like, again, from that reddish white family, things like radishes, rutabaga. And then as a little shortcut, there's also a phrase that one of the oncology doctors out there labeled, and it's called G bombs. So some of the most potent cancer foods are G stands for greens, B stands for beans or legumes, O for onions, M for mushrooms, B again for berries, and S for seeds. So if you're eating G bombs, greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds on the regular, these are super powerful anti-cancer foods. And then if you want a little bit of a spices list, this especially came from PubMed research and that Radical Remission book. Again, cultures that include a lot of fresh spices in their diet have lower rates of cancer. So that would be things like turmeric, cumin, ginger, garlic, saffron, the red hot chili peppers, rosemary, cloves, saffron, black pepper, coriander, wasabi actually, cardamom, onions or scallions, cinnamon, and oregano. So just trying to have all these fresh, whole, natural foods on the regular, you're basically putting plant chemotherapy into you without any of the toxic side effects.
so essentially, vibrant colors and vibrant flavors. I think you mentioned something about ginger. It jumped out at me before in one of your previous episodes. That
Do you want to hear the ginger story?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Okay. So I believe in this idea of breadcrumbs. I think the universe drops these little clues that most people are not probably paying attention to. But you know the story of like breadcrumbs in the forest? Not that we're going to a wicked witch that's going to eat us at her, candy house, but I think every once in a while a clue is left in your path that connects you to an idea, a person, just somewhere where you're supposed to be in that moment in time. So what had happened is I used to be a varsity rower before I was a high level CrossFitter, and my varsity teammates threw me a fundraiser for the reason that my right leg got paralyzed in my cancer surgery and I lost my ability to walk for about 4 months because it got accidentally damaged. So I live in Canada. We have very snowy winters where I am. And so my rowing team was fundraising one of those self-propelling treadmills so I could learn to walk again indoors and do that safely. Well, lo and behold, the local news got called to this fundraising event, and I got put on TV as this ovarian cancer, fighter or survivor who was fighting for her life. And this man in Michigan, who's not even, I live in Canada, somehow picked up our news channel. And his wife was a rare ovarian cancer survivor of the same kind of cancer I had. And what happened was on the background of where the interview was taking, our gym name, which was CrossFit London, you could just kind of see that we were inside of a CrossFit gym. He wouldn't have known that my husband was the owner of this CrossFit gym. But for whatever reason, this older man picked up the phone, called our CrossFit gym. My husband answered. He's like, "Hey, are you the guy at that CrossFit gym that just had the girl with the cancer? Okay, my wife, she survived ovarian cancer for like a lot, like more than 20 years. You have to tell your wife, or you have to tell that girl to go look up Ginger. Tell her to look up Ginger. You got it? Okay, click." My husband's like, this guy in Michigan just called me, wants me to pass on the message, look up Ginger. And so what I did is I actually went into the research and started to Google ginger and specific to ovarian cancer. And lo and behold, ginger is one of those powerful anti-chemo or like a chemotherapy agent in plants. And then I contacted an ovarian cancer researcher and through one of his like published articles just to kind of inquire more about the ginger ovarian cancer connection. And he's like, yeah, there's some early research that's starting to come out about using some of these natural products to fight individual types of cancer. And that is something we're starting to see emerge from the lab. So I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I started adding a lot more ginger and ginger supplements into my diet. And again, I was in remission pretty quickly, which is, I'm not saying it's like the cure all. Like, please, I want to be very careful with the advice that you're maybe hearing me give on this podcast. But it was just one of those little breadcrumbs that sort of helped towards my recovery. Thank you, random stranger in Michigan.